Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me today. My name is Gabriel Brent, and we are continuing on in our lessons of reading price action together. And we're just going to be going over more the same principle of the how and the why, and just reading the bars bar by bar. So let's get into things. All right. So, looking at this is the ending part of yesterday. And if you'll notice here, I have my 15-minute charts as well as my 500 tick chart. Okay, I do have multiple time frames enabled, so I'm seeing a whole bunch of different areas, a whole bunch of different zones and all that type of good stuff. And that's all really good. Now, looking at the morning, first off, as the market opens, you'll notice that we have a gap here. Okay, so looking at that, we know that there's a gap right there. All right, and it goes from pretty much what I call that level right there all the way down. So you might actually consider like 57 down there, but know that that is our gap. All right, so gaps could possibly get filled, right, during the day. So we will see if the gap gets filled or not. Um, but that's kind of what I'm looking at, and it looks like we have a process of higher highs here as we are in a somewhat of like an uptrend. Okay, so let's take that into consideration. The trend is obviously up. You can see that we've been up for the past while there, for the past day at least, and we can see the nice little first bounce off of that 15-minute zone, and it was really close to that 60-minute level in there too. Okay, so just taking all that into consideration, we don't need to overanalyze anything too much, but we kind of need to know where we are at in the big picture of things. So, and if anybody has any questions at any time, please let me know, and we will go from there. So let's start analyzing the bars. So this is still Globex. You can see our Globex low being formed down there inside that area, which is really close to yesterday's Globex high. And let's get into the open here of crude oil. I just really like crude a lot. So, alright. So here we go. Alright. So now we're seeing a retest of the Globex low level down there. It's coming down. And we have our different levels going on. And we're about to get started here. Alright, so we got a real quick retest of a new zone that just popped up there. My strength is 5 on the 500 tick, multiple time frames, all strength that are set to 3. Over here, strength of 3, and the multiple time frame of the 60-minute time frame is being at a strength of 3 as well, just so you guys know. Oh, I have a question here. Why liberal? And that is a good question. Let's actually take a little bit to talk about the zone types, if you will. So let me show you what this looks like in the big time frames here. Okay, so basically on here I have this set to intelligent, or with the current deal that I have, which is slight pre-release of the the version that you guys have, it says intelligent instead of hybrid. Basically, these different zone types. And let me change that real quick, just so that you guys, that we're all on the same page here. Okay, so AppleZones is set to now intelligent, just so that your screen and my screen look the same. With the zone types, basically what we're looking at is how the zones are drawn. All right, so you'll notice in this zone up here, like it was taken from the high of this candle all the way down to the close of this red candle here. All right. If we change that from intelligent to conservative, it's only going to take the wick. All right. So it just took that little wick area right there. All right. Now, if we change it to normal, it's going to take this whole bar. All right, you see that big bar that it takes there, right? So you see the difference in the zone type and how that plays into everything. If we change it to liberal, I'm sorry, it took the high down to the open of that candle. If we change it to liberal, it takes the whole thing right here, okay? Like the whole candle from high to low, type of deal. So that is the different zone types, and personally speaking, and then intelligent takes it, in this case, from this candle's high to that right there. Now, I like intelligent quite a bit. Most of the time it will be a pretty small and condensed area. To expand upon the different zone types a little bit, because there are several different types of zone traders out there, we made all those different zone types available to the different type of traders. And like we've talked about before, we can always come in here, unlock the zones, and then move the zones around if you feel like it should be different than what you currently see. Okay, so you are more than welcome to do so, or if you want to add a zone to another zone, combine zones basically, you can right-click on a zone, and when you right-click on there, you'll have a little deal that pops up here. Well, I thought it would pop up here. Why is it not popping up? Let me see. Okay, so yeah, you should have a little deal. Maybe the multiple time frame thing is interfering with that a little bit. I haven't noticed that before. But it says merge with previous and merge with next. You can do that if you so choose. Like if you feel like, oh man, price just bounced one tick from the high of that zone. This is trading, folks. We have to give the market a little bit of leeway just because there's so many participants in this thing. So if you see it miss this zone by one tick, more than likely you can probably justify moving or combining that zone together with possibly a new zone that was formed. So that is totally legit in the realm of zone understanding. So that just take it for what it's worth. And I really like to emphasize at this point that with the zones, what we have built into them is risk to reward, right? So the question is, how do you want to take that risk to reward trade? Do you want a lot of risk, or can you afford a lot of risk? Or do you want a smaller amount of risk? Or do you want a medium type of risk where it's reasonable, but sometimes it may be too big, and sometimes it feels like somebody's just giving you a silver spoon. That is something that you have to decide. Now, personally speaking, I like to run with intelligent for all my zone settings for the base time frame, and then I like to run liberal on the multiple time frame application. That's just the way I like to see it. Um, Maybe if you want to see just the conservative zones off the 60-minute time frame, go ahead and switch that over to conservative. There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. Something else to note is normal. Normal was the way that we drew zones in APAZones 2.0. I don't know why I didn't change it to something different. I really didn't know what to change it to, so I just put normal. I, not sure how to really a good name to put there, so that is the reason for the naming convention. And Intelligent does this momentum equation thing. It's pretty slick. But anyway, that's what the liberal 60-minute zone looks like. You can see like the low is down there at 94.35, and the intelligent is going to be smaller than that probably, 94.40. Okay, so interesting. But you can see the two different styles of the zones there. So 94.40 compared to 94.35. Not much difference, but hey, that's 5 ticks, and that could make all the world of difference for you, as you can easily see that that was a nice little retest of that 60-minute area right there, and then a drop down. Okay, so that's to be noted in all this. All right, so. And we're only looking for one bounce off the 60-minute time frames, and with that liberal setting, you'll get that one bounce a lot more just because it's a bigger zone. But just because it's a bigger zone doesn't mean you should take that trade, and plus you have to manage your risk in there. So on your smaller time frame, you just need to know where you are in the bigger context in general. That's what that tells us. Okay, so hopefully that says a little bit more about the zone types and everything like that. I feel in general that that liberal setting on the bigger time frames does get a little bit more respect from price than the conservative one does, but sometimes it's really interesting. Like yesterday, I would say both the conservative and the liberal settings of the zone were respected, where the liberal one was much bigger. And it is possible for the intelligent, I'm sorry, I didn't mean conservative, I mean intelligent, but it is possible for the intelligent setting to actually be bigger than the liberal setting. And the reason being is because this is a range equation, all right? And if it sees the range as being all the way down here for whatever reason, it can do that. And I have seen those where it is actually bigger than the liberal deal. But for the most part, about 90% of the time, the intelligent one will always be a smaller zone. But it is possible that it could be a larger zone too, just so you guys know. It's intelligent. It's self-adaptive to the momentum that it sees in the marketplace. I also like to reference it in context of using the 60-minute time frame as my larger time frame. You know, so yesterday, like the 60-minute zone, the liberal setting and the conservative setting were both really good resistance off of a 60-minute supply zone. You know, so the 60-minute liberal setting was really interesting, as well as that conservative setting was really interesting because it was the high of the day, like to the tick, basically. So very, very interesting stuff there. But hope I haven't gone into, or I hope I haven't bored you guys to death. But I think it's really important that you do understand those different settings. And I realize that every single trader is going to see the markets differently. I've just been doing this way too long not to say that. And because every single trader sees the market differently, um, what may seem like, oh, well, I always want the smallest risk available, it's a nice concept, a nice idea, but it doesn't always mean that that's going to be really good support and resistance, whereas the liberal one, it may be a little um, bigger and a little bit more to swallow there, but you know that you're in an area of potential support or resistance because it's a bigger area. So something like this little movement will not shake you out, because or make you question what is going on there, because we know that it was the 60-minute zone basically. I hope that makes sense, and that it really does help you setting up the Apazone software from here on out. So getting back into our bar-by-bar analysis, let's get into the open and go from there. So we know the gap is right here, and we're going to be watching that. And coming into the open, we have a nice little retest of this zone here on the 60 or on the 500 tick area. Okay, so looking at that, and it's also where our Globex high was, right? So we have 15 ticks of risk, and to get down to our next zone is 23 ticks of risk. So a little bit better than a 2-to-1 ratio. All right. But and this candle right here, this red candle right here, while it is a red candle, it did make a new high. So I want to let the bus come to a nice stop in here before I do anything. Okay, I know that this is a good area for the gap closure. And this is all gap from the range there. But we got to figure out what we really want to do. Okay. And let me make sure my settings are set here right. Yeah, I have it set to NYMEX Energy RTH, just in case you guys were wondering. Okay, so we got a retest of this Globex high zone, and then man, this thing just really took off. Technically, that was a spinning top candle, and boom, it definitely went down there to retest the Globex low. All right. So now we have a new low. Okay, so this candle right here beat the previous candle that we see just to the right of it. And to me, it kind of looks like a spinning top candle, but it just means it's losing a little bit of momentum there, right? So coming closer to the open of the U.S. markets, and we just pierce through the Globex low level just by a few ticks here. All right. So technically, this is still acceptable to take a trade long from if you wanted to, if this thing engulfs up there at the high side. But right now, we're still waiting because it appears that this candle is probably at least equal length to this. So I don't really feel like we're slowing down in momentum. So I'm still at a wait type of phase. Okay, so now we have a green candle. It made a new low. It could be like a Harami type of thing going on here. So, if you want to wait until it engulfs the red candle and then try to get back in, or try to get in there at the close of that area, then that is totally acceptable. And let's see what happens. It shoots up a little bit higher. We are really, really close to the open, so it might get a little wibbly-wobbly kind of deal. In the grand scheme of things, don't forget to count our higher highs and our lower lows, and lower highs and higher lows, all that kind of stuff. Don't forget to be keeping track of those, So we need to make sure that we understand what's going on there, right? So that is something else that we probably need to do here. And because we did just puncture the low, you want to be careful on this type of thing. Small risk, right? Small risk. First targets, if you were to take a trade like this, I see that green candle in there, in amongst the two big red candles. It's about 17 ticks away. Also look at previous lows. Okay, so that's about 8 ticks away. And if you were to put your stop down here, you got about 8 ticks there as well. So it's a 1-for-1 trade. I would rather take this one up here for my first target and second target kind of deal. But that's just a for instance type of thing. It is right at the open, so things can get kind of crazy. So I personally wouldn't be trading right at the open unless I saw just an amazing level, and the fact that this thing broke, it broke the low on 2 candles there. It gives me a little bit of caution, Plus, this is actually the second bounce on this zone too. All right, so that was our money bounce. The Globex low level was our money bounce on this zone. This is the second bounce, so we don't have to take this trade, by any stretch of the means. Why the first green candle? Okay, so why this candle up here? Because I know support resistance is likely to kick in right around in there. Okay, just what I pick up from experience, that's consolidation right there. We're coming down pretty hard. Boom, boom, boom. Look at the no wick red candle right here, and then boom, we have like a little hesitation, a little consolidation, a little resistance into the future. So let's see what happens. All right, and we break through that zone completely. We are now at the U.S. Open, and this thing is breaking down even lower. All right, and we do have a 15-minute zone down there too, right? So if we look here, this is the 15-minute zone from all the way up here, all the way down there, and the 60-minute zone, actually supply zone, starts right there, and this is off of a continuous contract, whereas this 60-minute zone is off of a daily. So your 60-minute zones are going to vary in between these two time frames. Just realize that. So they're not going to line up perfectly, and that's just the way the world works, because it is the way the world works. This leaves out all that Globex period of time, whereas this 60-minute zone, there's the bottom of the 60-minute zone, so the top of it is at 94, at 94.84, excuse me. And so that's just a couple ticks higher than that. And you don't actually see that on that chart as price getting up there at all. It's just something that we know in our Globex level happened, So that doesn't even register, so to speak. But we know that just because it is the way that it is. We're looking at the total picture price action continuously. All right. So we know as this thing comes back down here that there is potentially some support down here. Okay. So looks like we're getting into this level pretty good, and it just one-ticked it barely. Just barely down there. Okay. So potentially speaking, like this could happen, and you have like the little engulfing candle to the upside there, which is okay, but you're still playing right on the Globex level here, and because that one ticked it just like that, I would probably wait just a little bit longer before I try to take a long in this thing. All right, just because it did pierce the bottom of that 15-minute zone. All right, so, and we are right at the open here, so Now coming in a couple bars after the fact, now we're making new lows on these candles. And let's see what goes ahead and happens. A new low on this candle here. But look at the wick there. So it looks like that was a really strong candle coming down and slightly smaller. Then we have like almost like an inside bar type of spinning top. So I really like the spinning top in its placement. Yes, it did make a new low, but it's kind of lining up for like a harami candle. So if the next green candle engulfs this candle here, this could be an interesting place to get long, just because you have a little bit of space to go before your Globex level, as well as, we have some good resistance up in here too. So, but we'll just see how this happens. There's something else in this level that I think it's worth mentioning here, and I forgot what it was. Okay, so next green candle fails to break the low of the previous green candle, but we don't really engulf at that time. Alright, so no engulfing, nothing going on. Alright, so that's just the way it goes. We're starting to get really consolidated now, is what I'm feeling. Feeling consolidation. You feel all that, like almost like inside barness to this area here, and boom, we get an expansion out to the upside, right? So you had a whole lot of consolidation going on there, and that's actually is right at the 645 level, which can a lot of times be like the first 15 minutes, like you get a little change in the market, like this could be a little retracement to the upside here. What are we looking for targets? We're looking at the top range right in there. Okay, so I'm putting time into my analysis too. So this could be like a nice little retracement, or it could be like pretty big retracement. And we do know that we have like a gap to fill up here, in this range of all the way up there at like 94.59, right? So that's really close to where this zone is here. So if we could like get something popping back into there, that would be a really nice run back up. But it is only 645, which can be a decent turn time here. So let's see what happens. If you were to take something like this, as soon as this bar engulfs, try to get in at like the open, or the open of that red bar. Okay, and looking at your first target up there around 15 ticks. Second is you could put something like that, or you could just draw it all the way up there. That would be an okay target, and then maybe your second one up there, type of deal, and third one at the very top there. So that's all very reasonable type of thinking. But you are failing to break, like it's just not feeling like it's going down a lot, and you are at a good turning time. Okay, so let's see how high this thing is actually going to go. I just got a question here. Hold on. Okay, so how would you approach the 60-minute supply zone at 94 down to 94.35? 94.35 here. Okay, so how would I approach that 60-minute level, considering that, of course, this is a chart that you're actually referring to. It's right there. Would you consider it as completely fresh as your 15 minutes suggests, or would you be looking for a bounce from that level since it's brown and it was from like a week ago, right before the open? It was a nice base rally. I wanted short there, but we came there from yesterday as at the close, and I wanted to gap fill before I took a short from that area. That's really not a bad level to watch at all. Especially off of that 15-minute level. I think that that 35 level could definitely be um, resistance in the future. So it's really not a bad level. Plus, it kind of lines up with what I'm seeing right around in that range too. So that you can see how long price spent in that area in the Globex session and stuff, like right before the open. It could be a very interesting level to watch, just because price has spent quite a bit of time there, over and over again. So let's see what happens. Lo and behold, you do get like your 30 ticks, which I just put my little target there at the open of that green candle. So it looks like about 30 ticks there. And then let's see if we do get a drop, like what you're saying, But you do, I totally hear you when you say that you want to wait for a retest of the Globex high there. We want to see if the fill is going to happen, before we do something. But we also have to play the trade off of this chart, because this is our risk management chart. This is a huge stop to take, if you're going to take this whole thing as a stop to be looking short type of deal. So, but on the 15-minute chart, we can see like this level formed, and we have red bar, gap, red bar, red bar, red bar, first green bar, and we're at 7 o'clock here, So let's see what continues to happen. A lot of bars are just continuing to be highs or new highs on every single bar. Now we have a little bit of a failure to break the green bar high, actually 2 bars, and this bar engulfs the green bar here, right? So a little bit of a stutter and jitter type of things, and we do know that we have potential support at 94.35, which is this level here. And it's actually the top of a 60-minute level, which goes all the way down here away. So there's definitely something right around in that range. Okay, so we got a little engulf, came back down, maybe a little bounce off of that thing. And we come really close to that level right there off the 60-minute, as well as kind of where those two 60-minute ranges step over each other, or overlap on each other. Okay, so I'm feeling that, I'm feeling that support right there. I really, really am. And let's go ahead and move the bar over one here. So that is definitely seeming like it's acting as some support there. There's definitely something in that range, and obviously we can see it over here on the right side of the left side of our chart, as we look at that green little candle right there that I consider as potential resistance. So there are several things that are lining up to that area right in there. This green candle seems to be really good resistance for several reasons. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, not seeing a whole lot of yeses or nos, so not sure, but that's okay, maybe. Fair enough. Fair enough. All right, let's start this over then. Okay. Um, we have our Globex level right here. I'm sorry, our Globex gap right here, right? So we know where that is. I'm going to take it off, and actually I'm just going to make this circle wider. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to change that circle shape. Okay, so that's our gap that we're looking at. All right, 60-minute level off of the 15-minute charts, off the 15-minute regular trading hours, gives us support, or excuse me, gives me resistance at 94.35. All right, so that's where I know 94.35 is coming in. Now, on here, I know that I have a 60-minute demand zone. Top of the zone is at 94.39. Okay, and I know the bottom of that demand zone is wherever the next 60M level is, and that's at 93.46. Okay, so that's a really big zone, if you will. All right, but it is what it is, and it's off of that level setting. Okay, so we also are reading the price action just to the left. Okay, so look at how much time price spent inside of like this rectangle right here. Okay, see how price went down, like it's a little range, right? Right, like you're going back and forth in between a range. So here's your top of the range, here's the bottom of the range. Okay, and you break out of that range. I wish I could make that a little bit darker, but that is consolidation, like you're maybe 10, 20 ticks, something like that. It's not huge. Okay, maybe 30 ticks. So it's not that big for this market at all, but it feels like consolidation. All right, and the last time price came down out of this level, when it broke through that range, we had a little green candle form right there. Okay, now what I take that green candle to mean is that this is a little bit tighter resistance in the grand scheme of things. Okay, so or actually, I shouldn't say in the grand scheme of things, in the short term. I see that as short-term resistance. All right, it doesn't have to be major, but it can just be short-term resistance. If I get one bounce off of that level and then that level breaks, that's fine. But if I can take it in a trend-following way, like if we're making lower highs this whole entire time and new lower lows, then a retracement into this level isn't so bad. Technically, it would be great to wait for this level just because it's a little bit higher, and it's the retest of the Globex high zone, but that zone has already been retested once already. So it is what it is. And that happened real quick, spinning top, and we pushed down, right? So that's what I'm looking at, reading on the left side of my chart, as well as the zones that help us out as well. Okay, so let's see what happens right at this area here. Just this whole candle, and boom. We failed to break with a green candle. So as soon as we failed to break that red candle there, that was interesting. This is an inside bar, right? So inside bar there, and now technically speaking, we could easily see a move back down to the downside, which is going to be first and foremost this zone right there. All right. So then we get a little engulf, and it comes back down into this zone. Look at our support down here. Okay, so these lines, even though that like this is a 60 m supply zone, this could be a little bit of support for us, but it doesn't have to be major. All right, we have now officially, like just with the way that this recoiled off of this level with those two really big red candles, we have been making new lower highs this whole entire time. Okay, so that's a major lower high, and that's a major lower high, and obviously we have a lower low right here, right? So that's how I would see that. Alright, so failing to break that thing, anything in the market can happen, you know, but we know that we have a possible downtrend going on, and it really doesn't seem to want to retest this level up here. Okay, so that's kind of how I see things. All right, and it's coming back down to our Globex low level here, so I wouldn't be surprised if this acts as a little bit of support for us. Okay, so let's see if that happens. All right, so we have a new zone being branched out there, right? So that's kind of how I see that. A little bit of support there off of the Globex level, and then pops through it. Looks like I have another question here. Ninja price action indicator shows higher highs and lower lows. Yes. Uh-huh. Yeah, it does. So that's actually a nice thing to look at. We also have the Brooks bars thing that shows you, a new high, new low type of candle setup. I guess just going full circle, we might as well bring back Brooks bars. You can kind of see what we're looking at with the Brooks bars, So it really does matter. Like here's an outside bar, just like what we were talking about. Look at the outside bars, the highs and lows. Every single one of those is labeled. Inside bars has the two little triangles on the tops and the bottoms of them, So that stuff is all important. But there's a lot of text going on there, right? Okay, so we're coming back down, so don't be surprised to retest this area of consolidation down here. Basically this zone. Let's see what happens. And boom, comes back up. Alright, so if this is really a lower high right here, and maybe we're experiencing some consolidation here, I think at this time, this is a pretty strong move, but we're still technically, I'm still feeling downtrendy, So I actually want to draw a little trend line here for us, okay? So I'm feeling kind of downtrendy at this point. Alright, so let's just say that if this trend line does hold, okay, from this Globex high level, actually, I guess we could put it all the way up here. Actually that's a pretty decent trend line and a way to draw this thing out. But if this trend line really does hold, then we're going to be breaking down here, and we would like to see the retest of this zone, but we don't know if this thing's going to pop because this trend line seems to be in play. All right, so long target. If you did take something like that, then put it there at the edge of the zone, and there you go. Because we don't know if we're going to get the up move that we we want to see, because that trend line seems to still be holding. And boom, it hit it and then came back down. Alright, so now we're down there at the Globex low again. Man, prices really spend a lot of time bouncing like off of that level here, right? So there's definitely some lines right there. And come back up again. Now if we fail to break this on like a green candle, technically speaking, like this is a really good place to like take a short, you know, because we have a green candle in there. The only problem with this candle is look how big it is. Like this is a pretty big area, right? Like you're gonna have to put a stop. Like you're gonna want to be putting your entry like right there, and you have 15 ticks of risk at least, you know. So just be mindful of that. All right. So next candle comes in here. We're retesting this high, retesting like the trend line. Now we have about 9 ticks of risk to get onto the opposite side here. Mind you that we have the the Globex gap right in this range right here. So just hold on. But we do have the trend line right here, and we're really testing it right now. Even though price has gone beyond the trend line, I still feel like this is all legitimate fighting ground to really decide if the bulls or the bears are going to take control of this thing, because we're retesting the high right now. We're retesting the top of that zone. Okay. Why a potential short here? Basically, we have the trend line that gives us that. If we get a inversion candle right now, that 60-minute level at 94.35 is right there. Okay, so let's superimpose that real quick. 94.65. Alright, so we have that listed on our deal here. You can see how that goes across. So there's that 60-minute supply level coming in right there, and our trend line. Now, trend lines, just like with every single part of the market, trend lines don't have to be exact and precise, but they are really good battlegrounds for people that do follow trend lines, you know. So this is a battleground right now. You're looking at least 9 ticks of risk if you are able to engulf here and get entry at the open of that bar. Okay, so that's what I'm looking at for a risk to a reward type of deal. You know, just take it back down there at the Globex low. So that's a little bit better than 1-to-1. You're almost at 2-to-1 right there. So that's not bad at all. Let's see what the next candle does. And sure enough, it engulfs on the next candle. I usually like to give at least 2 candles for like a green candle to be engulfed, you know, and go in the opposite direction. Or a red candle, have 2 green candles for it to engulf and go in the opposite direction. So you engulfed there for sure. And it looks like we have our time of day playing into the picture right now. We're coming up to the 8 o'clock, top of the hour type of deal. So time is also going to help us out on this trade, because this could be trend line kind of war. By following the trend line going down, we have our time of day when we're in our zone. Okay, so first target down there, and next target, since that is the top of like this 60-minute zone, I think it is right there as well. Let's go put our, well, we have a couple different places that we could put like a runner type of deal. If you have 3 targets, just make the second one there at 27 ticks, and the third target down there at 81 ticks. I usually like to try to drag this closer to 100. So if you got in at, let's see, what is the price here? 94.29. Let's drag this down to 100 and see if we can't get 1 point off this thing. Alright, so we're just going to fast forward this. and you got your retest there. But yeah, you took some heat. Okay, on this next bar. It's a really big, like shooting star type candle. Okay, but it is a new. Well, it didn't. It's not a new low. Well, yes, the bottom of this is a new low, and your high is the same. So this is a new low candle. So still kind of a confirmation of the downside if you were to hold through that. We are at the top of the hour, and there's your first target at like 16 ticks. Maybe you want to make it 18 just for the 2 to 1, stereotypical like type ratio type of thing, Um, and we will see how this thing pulls out. All right, so yeah, you got your 16, 18 ticks here, but now we're taking some heat. Okay, we're coming back up here. Uh, we engulfed on this candle, so let's go see what it looks like on this area. So we're just going to wait for it to retest this high. We got our first target, so hopefully you've paid for your trade at the first target, and we're following the trend, or what we see as the trend here, coming from that trend line type of deal. The trender, notice that the trender is flat at this time, okay? So absolutely flat, and it's been flat for a couple days now. But it is green, all right? So maybe this is the high of the market, if you will, and just trying to make a short case, But I feel like we are making lower highs and lower lows. Obviously, we failed to break the low here, but at least give your trades 30 minutes to work out in your favor, Let's come down. All right, at 30 minutes, we broke that area, and we are retesting the lower low now, all right? So potentially target 2 could be hit. All right, now you got a little bit of jitter here on this zone here, right? So you see how this thing is forming here. If you did go long on this one from before, this is really your proving ground. You're taking some heat on this thing, so this little jitter here is going to be interesting. Technically, you could take it as it engulfed by 1 tick, but you're at the bottom of the hour too, So we are making lower highs and lower lows, so there's no reason to get out of the short position if you got into a short position here. This is also the first bounce. Correct, it is. Are we inside of a demand zone other than the 500 tick? Well, we have a 15M there, and let me scroll over here. We have a 15M up there, so this is a single 500 tick zone by itself. All right, so it is what it is. 6:45 was a good time for us. 8:30 now has come about, and we could see a little bit of reaction here. This could be a little bit of a retracement or something like that. But hey, we don't know what the market's going to do, right? So we just have an inside candle here. So anything can happen. And sure enough, we engulfed by just like a tick or two. It failed to break the new low, but if we're in a short position, then you still have some room to come back here, and it could easily retest this zone right there before it continues on its merry way down, or the Globex low level, which has been getting so much action that it's not even funny. So let's see what happens. And boom, we break to the downside. All right, so right around that time there. So 500 tick zone by itself. Not all zones are created equally, So it did not hold, as everything else has been pointing to a downtrend, especially with like this thing, a failure to break the high. at 8 o'clock. That was really, really good, you know. So let's see how low we can go. New zone down here, right? Not all zones are created equally. We do have a 15-minute zone right there, going down to a 15-minute right there. Okay, so there's your 15-minute zone on this chart. And let me scroll over here just a little bit as we're at 8:30 right now. This is also where the trender line is. Okay, so as we look at these candles, this thing's been coming down here pretty hard. I could see maybe a little bit of a reaction here, just because that's where the trender is, as well as the pivot point. Look at the pivot points. Pivot point was right there too. Pivot point's right here, so maybe we'll see a little something. Little something something. So and boom, breaks through it. Didn't even give you a jitter at all. It just totally ripped and roared through that thing. Okay, so 15-minute zone. And a little bit of jitter off that 15-minute 500 tick area. Again, this is not a real good time to be hitting this thing, so I don't really want to be taking a trade off of this thing just because it has this confluence here. But we have a very strong downtrend, forming out here. So let's see what happens. Yeah, actually, that's a really good point, Glenn. Basically, we've now broken the Globex low to a really good degree, all right? And because we've broken the Globex low and we failed to close the gap up here, trend is definitely down. Definitely down, all right? So don't be surprised to see this push down even further. Our 100 ticks is just at 33.27. So let's see if we can't get a 100 tick move on this thing. And now we're going to be coming into a zone down there at 93.46. So expect a little bit of cushion possibly right in here, just as it's hitting all this support. Oh man, this thing is looking strong. Wow. Okay, so keeps on coming, keeps on coming. This thing is just not gonna stop. So rip and roaring straight down to 93.37, which is our, oh no, it's not quite our target. We're at 27, excuse me. I just want to see if we get our target. Oh, there it is. So finally got the target, and that's a 100-point move. So that's how it's done to get 100 points on crude. So wasn't really planning on talking about trade setups nearly as much, more about the bars, but that's kind of leads into a nice trade setup eventually. But I'm going to probably stop the recording now as we're going into well, actually, no, I'm not going to stop the recording. But I'm going to ask for any questions here. Does anybody have any questions of how I looked at this thing? Just FYI, guys, I really like to have like a third target. Sometimes I only play with 2 targets, but if I feel like a trend is developing and I'm taking a trend following trade, a lot of times my third target will be 100 ticks or a $1 move on crude. Now, if I'm inside of a range, that's and I'm thinking that I'm going to be playing a range back and forth, I may set my second target to a pretty high number, maybe 50 cents or a dollar move. But if I feel like I'm trend following off of something like this, then you better believe I'm going to put my third target at a dollar, just because it feels so awesome to get a dollar move. It really, really does. So let's see what happens here as far as the rest of the day. I mean, we are in a downtrend now, folks. So don't kid yourself here. We've had a real good move. A dollar move on crude is great to capture. So let's see how far down this thing actually goes. Okay, so notice this. We made a new low. Green candle fails to break. We are at 9 o'clock here, folks, or 12 o'clock Eastern. Okay, so failure to break it. So technically, you would want to see like a retest up in this area of consolidation. You feel that area of consolidation here? It might be a little bit bigger if you want to draw it just down here ever so slightly, just by a couple ticks. There's consolidation for sure. Now, if we keep it up here, that's a little bit tighter. Then you only have 7 ticks of risk compared to like 10 ticks of risk. Okay, but that's the area of consolidation. We also have a 15-minute zone right there too. So, like, obviously, I'm pretty sure that, yeah, this was an old 15-minute line and a 60-minute zone right there. So it almost like boom and then came right back to those lines, especially the 60-minute. Like, look at how close that was. And then it comes down, 9 o'clock, top of the hour. Always look at those tops of the hours, man. Those are sometimes amazing trades. Like, I got a really great trade at like a 7 o'clock level yesterday. I don't even I think it was an up move, as I recall, but 7 o'clock came in. It was just like, boom. At least I think it was just, oh, man, I don't remember. So many trades. But anyway, 9 o'clock came, and then you have a real nice failure to break the low on that. Comes back up there. We are in a downtrend here, so technically you want to be taking the downtrend move, if at all possible. Take this thing to the downside. Now, this bar makes it a little hard to want to take it just down here to the low, just because you're looking at 12 ticks to possibly, 15 ticks of risk. That, maybe. I don't like that one at all. You really need to at least push it down there to 15 just to take that huge amount of risk. Like, that's, I don't know, I just don't like it at that time of day, but, anything's possible. So there's your first inside bar on that one. And that's a good sign for a move and a retest to the downside, but it's just an inside bar. I mean, anything can happen. This is a 500 tick / 60-minute demand zone support reacting as resistance kind of deal, So know that we're inverted on our support and resistance as this line seems to be holding here. And you finally got your engulf on the second bar. So yes, this green bar did get its engulf, and we come back down there to retest the low. Again, you're going to have your target down here where this 15-minute line is, just to break to get to a 1-to-1 ratio. Oh, yeah, you got it. So that wasn't so bad. But now you want it to break the low down here too, to get on to a nice trend move. It's 9 o'clock as well, or 12 o'clock, so this is like the lunchtime lull type of trade. So it could stay boxed up in this area pretty well, actually. So, goes back up. Well, that's not so bad. Like, look at your risk on that one. So let's not For a green candle to only be that big, that's actually pretty cool. Um, that's not that bad at all. So like maybe like 9 ticks of risk to 17 ticks of profits. Oh, take that. That's a pretty decent one. Oh, and there you go. So, and you almost got it on that bar, and boom, you definitely got it on that bar. So it didn't take out the low though. So let's see what the next bar does here. Oh, okay. So we are definitely going to be trading this range here. So it might be finding support too, considering that we've had a couple really good retests. We've had 3 retests of that low that have failed to break. So that's looking like a reversal possibly. Let's see what happens here. And zone changes color. That's nice. Oh, and we break up through that. Oh, well, that's all the data I have. Anybody know what happens after this? I unplugged from my data at this point. Anybody at all? Goes up to 93.74. Okay. So it went back up here to this area here. Interesting. Which means that it came back up and retested that trender line as well as a pivot point of S1. So yeah. So that's actually makes sense there, because a lot of times you'll see the pivot points hold and there's the trender line there. So that's a really nice area for it to hold. I can't believe this thing has been flat for 2 days. That's incredible. Like, I think if this has been a really big, like run up, then like that makes perfect sense. No, it's actually not been. But it's been a big drop down. There is a big run up. Man, some days I forget even what day of the week it is. So, but anyway, that's a whole nother topic. So thanks everybody for joining me today.